Happy Thursday morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Tropical MBA podcast. We are back. Yeah, buddy. If you run a location-independent business, anywhere from $500,000 a year in turnover to $10 million, today you're joined by thousands of listeners who are doing the same. Find out more about what we do at tropicalmba.com or dynamitecircle.com. Welcome back to the podcast, boss man. How you feeling?
We're back.
That's right. Well, first off, today we are going to cover just top 40,000 foot view insights and some trends hanging out with 200 listeners of the show in Mexico and kind of give a little bit of state of the union as to what's going on here at the podcast. I want to shout out to the comedic prowess of the listenership. A lot of funny emails about our brief hiatus. One came in from listener Dan. He said, "How can we help? I feel like a puppy at the window waiting for dad to come home, but he never does."
Oh, jeez.
Where's the pod at? Is this the end? It is not the end, Dan. I simply went on a hunger strike until we could get a new sponsor for the show. So I want to shout out to the good people at spp.co. They have recently rebranded to wayfront.com. Very sexy. And they want all of you agency owners out there to know about that new brand, wayfront.com. I know 30% of the listeners run services agencies, so you got to check out wayfront.com. They're helping us to keep the lights on, boss man. And that's not the real reason we left.
Yeah, I mean, if you know us, you know there's no way we're going on a hunger strike. Sponsor or not, I'm eating. Got to get those chips.
We were certainly eating a lot of chips and dip down in Mexico.
That's right.
No, we just took a break. It was nice, you know. We were flying to Mexico. We had a lot to do for the event. It was a great event and just took a break. It's awesome. I'm feeling refreshed. Right now, I'm looking at our podcast sheet. We've got like 6 or 7 episodes that we're super excited, specifically from case studies, conversations, and ideas that we got down in Mexico. So we thought we'd come back with sort of an overview. And then in the subsequent weeks, we're going to dive into some really interesting ways people are making money, leveraging AI, doing fascinating stuff in their businesses in 2026. So that's the game plan. Before we jump into it, Ian, I just thought maybe just talk about some of the pros and cons of traveling down to Mexico. You know, every time I go there, I have the same take.
Yeah.
We went out for tacos one night and we took the long walk home in Mexico City. And I was just like, man, I feel like New York and Paris had a boho baby.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was art installations. The architecture was nice. It was a wonderful night for a stroll. The weather was good. Mexico City is just a really, really fun place to visit. And there's an increasing back channel of Americans discovering Mexico City. It feels like on the ground. I mean, I don't know the stats or whatever, but I know that a lot of New Yorkers during COVID started saying, hey, I live in Brooklyn. Like Mexico City is basically affordable Brooklyn, you know? And so why don't I just work from Mexico City? Mexico City is this vibrant town, attractive to entrepreneurs, not only from America, but from abroad. And so it turned out to be a really cool spot to have this event in.
Yeah, you can tell pretty easily when you're in like Roma Norte and Condesa why people from New York think it's awesome. One of the things that I noticed too is, you know, and we're not talking about things to do with kids, right? We're talking about going to posh taco spots.
Yeah.
You know, it's like any major city. It's kind of hard to get out of the city. Like, you know, you're surrounded by mountains. I don't know how long it takes to get there, but it seems far away. So,
yeah,
like when you're in Mexico City, you're in Mexico City. A couple downsides: the smog is bad, or the air quality is bad. You're encircled by mountains, and the air kind of just hangs out there. You know, one of the other things I noticed is it's a pants city too.
Oh yeah,
not a lot of shorts going on there. It's kind of like Bangkok, like that. People are kind of dressing to impress and whatnot. But yeah, you described that walk that we did all the way from, I think it was Roma to like basically Central. It was like 40 minutes and we did it at like nearly midnight and like I didn't feel sketch at all. And that's kind of like the story that you hear about Mexico City is like it's sketch or whatever, but I didn't feel that at all.
I would say it's an entrepreneurial challenge to go to certain places, Mexico being one of them, which is, hey, you got to check the prices because, you know, people are going to see you as a market. We stick out a little bit. And it's like, here's our chance. Here's our chance to make some gross margin. That's it. You got to just be on it. You got to be on your P's and Q's. But I think that's part of the fun of travel too, is like adapting and having negotiations and yeah, making sure that It can get exhausting if you're there for some time, but you figure it out. And I think that's part of the adventure of traveling and learning about new places.
It is, yeah. I mean, you got to get ripped off once or twice to kind of know the drill.
All right. Without further ado, let's dive into it. Some trend spotting and some top level reflections on hanging out with 200 listeners of this podcast. Okay, so DC Mexico 2026 was a 4-day event which featured a full AI build day, which means we all got there a day early and simply worked. This was hosted by one of our members, and we also had an AI coach, like an experienced AI practitioner at every single table. Those tables were organized by the types of thing that you were building. So whether it was like operations or marketing or software. We also had a full mastermind day and 2 days of conversations and workshops. We had 186 registered attendees coming in from 30 different countries. I think that is very DC-like. We had a team of 15 delivering the event. That's our full-time team as well as sponsors. 30 partners and spouses braved the evening parties as plus ones. We had 27 sessions and 50 member-led meetups, not to mention all of those cool, like sort of field trip type taco tours and baseball games and all that kind of stuff. It's interesting. You get like 200 people together, but you're kind of like connecting in all these different ways, whether it's like socially or through a workshop or a conversation or a mastermind or sitting at the AI build table together. That's essentially the goal. The design of the business is to have structured ways to get to know people, structured ways to build relationships, and to discover interesting things about each other, essentially by not just being like, where'd you fly in? Which obviously you want to know where they flew in from because it's cool. But what's the next step? What are you building? What are you working on? What do you learn? What are you struggling with?
Another number, Dan, is 33% of the attendees had over $1 million in revenue.
That's right. We welcome 40 DC Black members as well as 9 new DC Black members. Another interesting stat is 17% of the attendees have an undeclared home base. And the rest, I ended up talking with some folks about this, and they're like, well, I did declare a home base, but I wasn't there for 6 months last year.
People got mad about that stat. Let me just explain the stat so everybody understands. 17% of DCers said they had an undeclared home base, meaning they had no home base.
That's right.
But that number is maybe a little bit misleading, according to conversations that we had.
Yeah, because some people are like, well, I declared Mexico City as my home base, but I've only been here for 6 months last year. So there's a little bit of that going on. So
don't pull my nomad card kind of thing,
Yeah, don't pull my nomad card. Just some other ideas about the DC. Our goal is a 10% net membership growth this year. Growing a community like this is a slow process. We definitely saw that at this event. We're tracking on that goal. I actually pulled an observation from a first-time DC conference attendee. He said, I'm intrigued that the same people who knew years ago that outsourcing wasn't just for the giant companies and built personal freedom through that and lifestyle businesses are the very ones to actually dig into the AI mind shift and apply it to small business first. It was great to see not just AI theorized, but applied, and as well as see the various perspectives on what that means to us. I also genuinely appreciate the spirit of the community and the concerted efforts of many to connect. There's no DCers in my home city, so these events really cement the new folks' place here. Thanks to all who connected, presented, and organized. So shout out to that member for the very kind comment. One of the things we really aim for is just this kind of open environment where people are friendly, they're interested, they're celebrating wins, they're sharing difficulties, and finding ways to connect because it's just so fascinating what y'all are doing. Like the listeners of this podcast, it's so unique. And I think sometimes in our day-to-day lives, it doesn't get celebrated enough. It's just looked at as weird, alternative, different. And then you come to a room and everybody's like just so excited to share because you're in a room full of like minds, that are building similar kinds of businesses. Just some background on that. I pulled some stats from the event. In the last 12 months alone, our members have logged over 1,046 trips across 86 countries. And those are just the people who use the Trip app function. Like you said, 1 in 3 DCers run over $1 million businesses in this location-independent fashion. We've had over 207 grassroots DC gatherings in the last 12 months in 43 cities. So these are non-ticketed events. These are simply like members meeting up for lunch, for coffee, for some kind of gathering that they're self-hosting. There's currently 143 active mastermind groups in the DC. We always notify members if there's going to be a competitor in the mastermind that we're connecting to see what they think about that. And most often, the DC member will elect to continue in the mastermind because they want to build a relationship with others in their industry and find a way to grow the pie bigger. So it's sort of a mindset thing. And there's a big mix of business and lifestyle, Ian. The top hobbies in the DC are number 1, travel, number 2, reading. So a lot of travel business nerds, I'll say. Fitness, number 3, investing, number 4. Now officially a hobby.
I was going to say.
And food, number 5. We had a wonderful pre-sale for next year's event. We thank you all for those of you who secured your ticket for 2027. And so that says we're on to something here with this event. And that's it. Our next steps, we're moving on to our events in Barcelona and Bangkok. But that's a little bit of like the state of the community, state of the event. Just really exciting energy in the room. A lot of open atmosphere, a lot of excitement, a lot of sharing, and it was cool. I'm still collecting my notes and excited about getting a lot of this information onto the podcast in the coming weeks.
Hell yeah. Great event, Dan. Looking forward to being back there next year.
Cool. So without further ado, here are 3 top-level reflections that we have on the event. All right. Our first reflection is around how to get results in your business. We got the chance to look at a ton of businesses, see under the hood, see the results. I made a progression here. The least useful way is what we're all doing right now. We're reading, we're watching, we're listening to a podcast. This is the inspiration level. The next level is seeing others implement these ideas. I'm going to give an example of me watching this. There's something about taking like, hey, did you hear about that thing on the podcast? Or did you hear about this book? And then seeing how the ideas were implemented in a real sandbox of a business, that's the next level. Not seeing it on a case study that was curated. There's something that hits different when you're sitting down and someone just says, you're like 5 minutes into the conversation and someone's like, let me just show you. I'm going to open the laptop and just show you. That's like, ooh, now we're getting somewhere. And then the final piece is just doing it yourself. Actually taking the information and doing something with it and seeing what returns. And that's why we added the AI build day. It was pretty profound. Like one member launched a business and charged for it, literally got a customer. And that was like a cool experiment. But at the same table, you have somebody who has a multi-million-dollar business who's optimizing a whole process and making a lot more than what you'd make from getting a new paying customer. So it's really interesting to see people actually just taking action with the information they're presented with vis-a-vis the conference or a podcast or a book, or by watching somebody else do it. It's like, I'm going to take your implementation and right now I'm going to do something with it. And there's something about like taking the action itself that's a different type of knowledge.
Yeah, like you're saying, I think most of us get stuck at step 1, which is like reading, watching, and then you get in the cycle where you're just reading, watching, but you're not implementing and you're not doing. But the Build Lab for me, Dan, was maybe my favorite day in a lot of ways because it was kind of a new concept, and nearly all of the participants from the conference came to this Build Lab. You've got a conference room, a big ballroom, and you've got all these round tables set up. And at each table, you've got a coach, somebody that's maybe a little bit further ahead in their AI journey. And then you've got the participants, and everybody's kind of seated depending on what they're working on. There was plenty of people too that like sat down. They're like, hey, I've had this problem in my organization for a long time. I want to solve it. And then they got the input from the 5 or 7 people at the table. And they were able to actually build start to finish whatever their solution was.
Yeah. Our company is legit AI first. And we started doing podcasts about it because you sat down with the guy in Nashville, right? You sat down and you saw it. I mean, we all listened to podcasts and been using AI, sidecar in it and stuff. It took sitting down. And so I talked to a lot of members who walked into the AI Build Lab with a lot of anxiety. Like, I'm feeling left behind. I got a business to run. What am I supposed to do? Like, sit down and learn this whole new paradigm of working or whatever? And it's like, yeah, try it out. Try to like sit down with these smart people and everybody's willing to share. And that was the whole principle there.
So call to action, Dan, I think we'll probably try and recreate this at events because we're going to be in a moment for a while on this AI stuff. A couple things. The furthest you can be behind right now is like maybe 12 months. And I think if you work at it for like a month, you'll be where everybody else is or where 95% of the people are, which is probably all you need for your business to kind of be up to speed. The other thing is, I heard stories of people doing this with their teams and shipping product with their teams. I think that that's a really fun idea. So maybe like take a Friday once a month and everybody works on a project that they're trying to either fix something in their workflow or make something new. The third idea is you should probably host a meetup in your local town, wherever you are. I did this in Austin. We should do a couple more. I was just talking to some random guy the other day that I know owns a machine shop. I was like, what are you working on, Jeff? His like eyes lit up and he's like, well, I created a whole new workflow for the shop. He's like, I've always wanted a television in the shop, a big 60-inch television that like showed where all the projects are in process and like who's working on what. He's like, I sat down one day in Claude and I built it. And he like showed me the app on his phone and everything. Everybody is going to get into this. You customize software for your personal application. So my call to you is like, can you set up something in your local area to bring together 5 or 6 people to just sit down and like talk about this stuff? We are all sitting around on the internet all day long, reading about this stuff, consuming content. The real magic happens when you sit down with a couple other people like we did in the Build Lab and you see what everybody's up to and you trade ideas and you figure out how you're going to meet again and what you're going to have done by the time you meet again.
So point number 1 is it's really interesting to see the progression of how to get results in your business from hearing about an implementation, mostly through media like podcasts or reading, to seeing an implementation. All right, point number 2. We are moving from the attention economy to the trust economy. A perspective shared by Matt Newton, who runs the fastest growing travel company in Australia. He gave a great talk. And we've been talking about this concept of the attention economy since Seth Godin put me onto it, at least. This idea that you got to be the best in the world at something. You have to be remarkable. Like you can't buy extra space on the shelves in the supermarket anymore. So how are those who get attention and distribution will be the winners? Well, he gave a lot of examples of how AI is like nerfing a lot of this. We've got tons of algorithmic changes. We're kind of peak content on a lot of platforms. It's not to say that the attention economy is done, but people are figuring out ways to get into people's SMSs, into their email inboxes, into their algorithms. And the question is that the economy we're going to compete in as a small business, or will it be this trust economy? Consider experiences that have a lack of efficiency. So one of the things that Matt was noticing in the travel space is that he's built the largest ceramic school in the world in the past few years. And part of the reason is that people don't want to be touching their phones all day. And they actually are willing to pay premium for a non-efficient experience. Matt warned us about the white noise that will be coming in droves, and that this idea of a durable relationship with the customer that maybe has strategic inefficiencies will be an interesting path to consider the strength of your relationship with your customer in the coming years. It's just something to chew on, theoretical. But I've been seeing a lot of this in some of the niches that I play around in, like in the music space. You build trust by learning from people, learning from their expertise. And then all of a sudden there's a $15,000 retreat and it's completely sold out. And you can see the case study of Guthrie Trapp, launched an event called Trapped in Nashville. 15 grand, sold it out in like 24 hours, and then started another one 6 months later. But it's just that trust and this idea of like, man, wouldn't it be great if we could just all get off of the phone, out from behind the laptop, out from our home offices, and get connected with people in like a long form. It doesn't need to be the most efficient thing ever, whether it's a ceramic school, whether it's a guitar clinic or whatever. And these are experiences and products that require a lot of trust with your customer. So I thought that was interesting, is like, what does the trust economy look like? What does it look like to honor your relationship with your customer, to have a solid set of principles? These are things that small location independent businesses can excel at. And so I think it's worth thinking about, what does the shift from attention grabbing to trust building look like in 2026?
I agree in a lot of ways, Dan. Like, the trust economy existed with small businesses. That was kind of like the premise of the relationship, which is like, you're really good at this thing, or I trust you, therefore I'm going to buy from you, therefore I'm going to refer you. I mean, this is even like pre-internet, right? Is it surprising that we might be like swinging back to that according to Matt? I think not.
The idea you're buying an appliance 20 years ago where you can't have infinite information and know exactly which factory in China it was built from. You said, well, it's got Maytag posted on it. That means this to me. It's like this kind of gathering of these like trust signals. And I guess the question is, well, what does trust mean in the context of your company? How can that help you sustain your margins when you can back engineer everything nowadays? You know, the other thing I see with just trust on the brand, it reminds me of a theme we've talked about for years, which is a lot of how to make money on the internet ideology revolves around this concept of going viral, getting a lot of likes, getting a lot of views. And that's a legitimate way to build a business. But yet the majority of the small business owners and meaningfully wealthy business owners that we see in the room, they simply do not have something like that attached to their business. Yet you see thinkers and ideas and articles referenced constantly that aren't necessarily popular, yet they're galvanizing and they build trust. So there are pieces of media, products, and services that you can build that appeal deeply to 100 people that will get talked about whenever they meet somebody specifically that's like them, that 101st person.
Right.
That can grow you wealth. It's worth considering in this attention economy when mostly what you see online is people just trying to get your attention for any old thing, that the depth and that the impact isn't always properly represented in likes and views. And you see that really clearly in the room. Like, okay, we're in this room of 200 people. There's not a ton of famous people here, right? Like, there's not a ton of famous viral content. There's certainly some businesses that leverage that, but mostly it's trust and high impact signal, content, services, and products.
Correct. Yeah. It's maybe like 5% of the people in there that have some sort of a viral business. The rest of them are what you're talking about. And other word that kind of stands next to trust for me is consistency. What have you built consistently that's performed and that people trust?
The best productized agencies we know are run by small, lean teams doing serious revenue. And most of them are still juggling 5 tools that don't talk to each other. Your clients are emailing for updates. Your team is hunting through Slack for SOPs. And somewhere in there, you're supposed to be growing the thing. That's exactly the problem Wavefront was built to solve. You might know them as Service Provider Pro or SPP.co. Same team, same product, and now with a much bigger vision. Wavefront is an AI-ready operating system for productized services. Your clients get a white-labeled self-service portal for billing, onboarding, and reporting. Your team gets one dashboard with every project, message, and SOP in one place. All your data is AI accessible, so agents can actually help with real client work, not just busy work. Thousands of agencies have sold and delivered over $500 million in services through Wavefront. If your team is between 2 and 20 people or doing between $200,000 and $2 million a year, this is built for you. And because you're listening to the TMBA podcast, TMBA listeners get 1 month free on top of the trial. Check it out risk-free at wavefront.com/TMBA. Point number 3, quote, networking might be a waste of time, but shared experience with your peers is invaluable. I get home from the conference, Ian, I'm decompressing, I open up X, and our boy Levels.io quote tweet saying, networking events are for losers. I just got back from an event, and I'm thinking, was I networking? Am I a loser? What's he getting at here? It just made me dig in and think a little bit about what we're trying to do with these experiences. So what I would say, and this is true in any business, and perhaps what we're talking about with inefficiency, a little bit Matt Newton's idea, shared experience is rare and at a premium, especially in like this phonetized world we live in, especially in groups where the outcomes you've achieved are rare. So in this case, our case, professional lifestyle business owners are rare. It's rare to have a shared experience. The traditional conference circuit has this like, you think you're better than me? What Levels is saying, you can reinterpret it. It's like, I think I'm better than the people at those conferences. And on the other side of it, if you go to a conference where you think everyone is better than you, that also might be a waste of time. So the question is how can you have shared experience with other people who you respect, who've done similar rare things to you? That is where the magic happens and where it stops being networking and it starts being shared experience. This concept of networking, it made me reflect a little bit in the technology space where you have this oligarchy of sort of investors and like post-exited CEOs. And then you have a large group of people who want to join that group, and most of them won't. And so you have this history of technology conferences where most people will never quite make it. And there's like this rarefied air. And so you have this dynamic that makes people think networking is a waste of time. Just like go build the startup and the investors are going to find you anyway. I think that makes sense in technology, like winner takes all type of business models. But if you've been quietly from your home building a multi-million-dollar business and you've been doing it mostly alone and with your team, and you have all of a sudden have the opportunity to go out and hang out with, sit around a table for 4 hours with 5 other people who've done the same, even Levels would take up that opportunity. That's something that he probably engineers in his life all the time. And so this concept of networking can be overused. It can feel like you're doing something simply hitting the conference circuit. I thought I'd bring that up because there's a part of both of us that agree that we were so disappointed by networking events in general. Whatever happened last week simply does not feel like that at all. It feels like shared experience. And whether or not it's at a DC conference, that's where the magic happens, no matter what goal you're pursuing.
The reason why we're all here listening to the show, going to this conference in Mexico, is because we're unique in the way that we have decided we are going to be in control of our future and our fate and our businesses, where you have to rely on other people for things like capital. And so therefore you have to network and you have to brown nose and you have to do all these things. These are all things that me and you got allergic to real early on in our career. It was like, no, I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to figure this out. I don't need any help. Of course you need help, right? But not in the way that your business depends on these types of relationships. You know, we all got loans in the early days. We all needed each other. That's the difference, is like nobody can do this alone, but also you can't depend on anybody else for your success. So yeah, sure, networking is lame, but I'll tell you what isn't lame: professional networks. They've been around forever. The DC is a professional network. It is a place where we all get together and we discuss best practices. These things exist for doctors. They exist for dentists. They exist for home builders. Like, we need each other to figure out best practices. And I think one of the ways in which you can tell what kind of room you're in is this. If there's a circle of people talking at an event and you walk up to that circle, if the circle expands and lets you in, you're in the right place. If the circle doesn't open up, you're probably in the wrong place.
Okay, that's it. Those are our 3 top line. Just some quick hitter ideas at the end. We saw a couple 0-employee businesses, Ian.
Yep.
The agents are coming. We saw a handful of people acquiring mom and pop, quote, boomer businesses. Boomer businesses are an interesting opportunity. They do not want to sell to PE. They want to sell to you, boss man. And so it's interesting to see a lot of members figure out a way to do seller financing, acquire, grow their business through acquisition, through relationship building, instead of being a big capital player. I'm seeing employees buying into the AI thing or founders just moving on. And the interesting thing is, like, I don't think the listenership is moving on from hiring at all, like we see it with our job board, but they are moving on from team members who are resisting AI. That's just not completely wholesale, but it's pretty straightforward. we're doing this thing. We're early adopters. We've always been early adopters. If you're not adopting with me and getting on board with this new mode of working, then it's not going to work out.
I think a lot of DCers are trying to figure out like how to retain their team. It's like, hey, I've got like 40 or 50 people on my team. Like I'm working to retain them all. And here is how I see the workflow with AI and how I see them up leveling. Now, I don't know how this stuff is going to play out. I'll see you again in Bangkok and let you know if we still have 40 people or 20 people.
Yeah, that's it. There's so much more to share. Like we said at the top, we got a bunch of episodes coming in the coming months from folks that were at the event, ideas that we got at the event, and excited to share them here on the podcast. My final impression, my big takeaway, Ian, is when all the stuff came out in January, it was a little bit like, ooh, what's going on here? Like, is this going to be weird? Is this going to be super weird? I'm actually really optimistic. What I'm seeing is like people having really good years, people growing their businesses, people hiring, people right-sizing, a lot of adaptation. I just feel like it was a very optimistic, this is going to be a good year vibe down in Mexico. So that was kind of like my core takeaway walking out of there is, man, I think people are doing really good.
I agree. If you're not doing good, maybe this is the year where you can start doing good.
There you go. If you're not doing good, that's the first thing you share.
That's right.
And you try to sort it out. Like, I'm not doing good. And it's like, well, cool. We've got a room full of a couple hundred people who are professional, occasional, not doing gooders. And our job is to fix it. And that's part of what's inspiring about this stuff. Hey, it's not always going to go good. And then we're just going to have to let people in, whether it's a deal gone sour. It could be the occasional lawsuit. It could be a revenue dip. It could be an existential crisis in your industry. But you see these things come up and then you see people be resilient and pop back and get adaptive and figure out the next thing, next way to move forward. It's all these other things that we talked about. But, you know, it's also an insurance policy. It's like, these are 15 people that I can call when like shit hits the fan. And they're going to help me out.
That's right. So where are we next, man? Barcelona in July with DC Black. And then we are back to Bangkok in October. So if you're thinking about getting into an event this year, I would definitely join us. This is going to be a great year for you and for us and everybody around us. So come on with us to the party.
Hell yeah. All right. Hunger strike over. Thanks for joining us on the podcast. We'll be back next Thursday morning.